Hello and welcome. If you've seen any of my videos before, welcome back. If not, thank you for clicking on here. I'm Becky. I am in my 30s and I'm here to talk to you today about breastfeeding and a bit of a birth story. And usually about things that are overwhelming, ways to manage life, anxiety, panic attacks, organisation tips, just anything like that to make life better and calmer. Doesn't everybody need that? But tonight is a bit different. I recently reached the 18-month milestone of breastfeeding my daughter and was quite tempted to keep quiet about it because I feel like it's a bit of a taboo subject. There's lots of people that try to breastfeed and can't for whatever reason. That might be you. There are others that make it really, really obvious that they breastfeed and breastfeed for years and years and years. Everybody is each their own, but I thought, no, it is a big deal and it is a milestone for me and I do want to celebrate it, and I suppose I feel justified in that it hasn't been easy at all. Hasn't been easy at all. So I had all these ideas for birth. I wanted it to be as natural as possible. I wanted there to be the least amount of medical intervention. I didn't want to take any pain relief. I wanted to have a home birth. I wanted it all to be natural and peaceful, and you can tell maybe this was my first baby. It did not go that way. So I was diagnosed with something called placenta previa, where my placenta was basically blocking the exit, and they said if you try to give birth naturally you'll bleed so much it will be dangerous, you need to have a caesarean section. So immensely gutted about that, found it really hard to comprehend. I'm still not sure I have. There's a little bit of relief in that the control wasn't nothing was under my control. I just had to walk down a corridor and lie down and it was up to them. It wasn't about me pushing or possibly failing in that way. I couldn't do anything apart from just turn up. So I suppose in a way that was a relief, but much more than that, it was a disappointment because it couldn't have been more opposite to what I was hoping for. It was complete medical intervention against nature. It was a booked elective caesarean, so it wasn't even that I waited for the baby to naturally come. She was born when she wasn't ready, is how I feel. But all was okay, and that happened. So I had her and went into the recovery room. Still fairly traumatic as a birth. I don't know many stories where there isn't some sort of trauma, but I lost a huge amount of blood and was in and out of consciousness, and it took them a long time to repair me and sew me up afterwards, even though her being born only took about 10 minutes. So I went into the recovery room and they said, a very no-nonsense midwife said, how do you want to feed her? And I said, I'll try and breastfeed, but had less than little expectation on it because I just didn't know how it was going to go. And I suppose I'm not very blessed in that department. There's not a lot here under this bra, and they've not really served me many favours in the past, so I just kind of expected it to not go well. But my little one actually latched on, and I was so out of it, I wasn't getting stressed because I was pumped full of drugs and, just about managing to hold her. Didn't really know what else was going on. So, yeah, we got pretty much left to it because this was a week into lockdown, the first lockdown of the Covid-19 pandemic. So, staff didn't really come in and out of the room much apart from just to do the mandatory observations. They checked that they were like, is she feeding, and just asked me rather than came over and looked. So I kind of felt like I was guessing what I was doing. But she was, going doing poos and all the things you're supposed to look for. So I felt like, okay, she must be getting milk. We got sent home. We only stayed in one night. Very, very difficult recovery with a caesarean section, you might know. takes a long time, extremely hard to sit up, stand up, all those things without the aid of a hospital bed that does that for you. So yeah, challenging once we got home, but yeah, carried on feeding her. We had a visit after a few days at home and she was weighed and they said, oh, she's lost more than 10% of her birth weight, slightly more. We're concerned you need to top up your breastfeeding with formula. I actually said, is there anything else I can do, because I really don't want to do that now I've established breastfeeding. I'd read that breastfeeding works on a supply and demand basis, so if you top up with formula then your body won't make as much milk and then you're sort of left with that problem long term, because your body's like, oh, we don't need to keep making it. So the midwife said, well, you can just feed her constantly, just feed her all the time, around the clock, as much as you possibly can to get that weight back up. And that is what I did. I just didn't move. I fed her all the time. My milk, I thought, had come in because there was milk there. Turns out you don't know quite what that means until it happens to you. So shortly after the midwife had left, actually, suddenly I had these rock hard, massive boobs. Never happened before. It was so nice to have big boobs just for a bit. And I was just like, whoa, what is going on? Turns out that's when your milk is coming in. They just leak everywhere. So I just used that to my advantage and fed her and fed her and fed her. And I never gave her formula because I thought that's just going to mess with what my body thinks it needs to do. And I think it would have. So I'm glad about that. So yeah, I fed her what felt like all the time for the first few months of her life. Her weight quickly went back up and she is an absolute chunk and really always has been, apart from that blip at first. So yeah, I fed her for the first 6 weeks whenever she wanted. After that, I tried to feed her every 3 hours. And when I knew when I was feeding her, so I only ever fed her at home. And if I went anywhere, I went in between those times. So even 18 months later, I've never actually fed her in front of anyone because we were in lockdown, so we couldn't really go out in public. I only went to see my mum, and seeing my mum for an hour or two is long enough. So sorry, mum, if you're watching, but I think you'll agree. Same the other way around. So then I'd just go home again and be like, right, it's time for a feed, I'm going home. And that was just how it worked. So, yeah, I think I feel a bit shy about feeding in front of people. Maybe just because, I don't know, I'm a bit clumsy with things like covering up and, you know, my little one is one for like randomly pulling off and flashing you and, you know, that sort of thing. And I feel happier and more comfortable in my own home. For the first few months, I just watched Netflix all the time I was feeding her. I went through a few good series, actually. What did I watch? Benidorm, Desperate Times, and The Crown. A few things like that. After a while, she started to watch them and become too distracted and I had to just sit there quietly. And yeah, now I only feed her morning and evening, so I'm always at home then, so I've just never needed to feed her in front of anyone. If I have another one, not in the lockdown, we'll see how that goes. Might have to just take the plunge. As it is, I've never even thought about breastfeeding tops or nursing bras. I've always just been like, while I'm at home, you know, it was April when I had the April of the first lockdown, so it was really, really hot that April and all of that summer, so it was no problem to just strip off at home. Don't know how it'll go next time. We shall see. So yeah, breastfeeding went pretty well. Feels like a major commitment, and it is because it takes so much time. I never gave her a bottle. I attempted to pump. It went okay, but she just wasn't interested in a bottle or a cup or anything other than me. I think because I had a year off work and I was around, it wasn't a problem. So I just fed her, and you cannot do much when you're in a national lockdown, so you might as well. I had a few bouts of nasty mastitis, one which was like flu, full on knocked me off my feet, was horrible, and another one where one side just went red with all these big hard, like, it's almost like rocks in your boob. It feels horrible and it's so painful to feed, but you have to feed through it is the advice, and I managed that. The same time as that bout, I had my little one bit me as she had just got teeth on the other side, and my nipple got infected and actually went a nice shade of green. So I had one red and one green, like Christmas on a chest, and still had to keep feeding through it. And there are times where you nearly give up, but it's special. It really is special, because I felt like it's the only thing I can give her. Anybody else, I mean, nobody else did really, but anybody else could change a nappy, put her to bed, feed her, food, any of those things, but it was only me that could do that, could feed her from me, and I just felt quite amazing that my body could do that. So it was lovely, and now she's 18 months and she's like a tear away and running around. It means I actually get a cuddle with her, so that's nice. Please feel free to comment, share your experience. I know it's not for everyone. I'm not even saying it's the best thing to do, because I think mental health is hugely important, and it can have a really negative impact. So you have to weigh things up. Happy mum is happy baby. That really is like huge. So you have to remind yourself of that with decisions like this. I went for, this is slightly irrelevant, but you'll see what I mean. Went for a spa day recently and felt the guilt creep in of, oh, I'm doing this and somebody else is looking after her. But had to remind myself, I have to take care of me to take care of her. Having a day away just for me without thinking, what does she need, what does she need, what does she need, will make me calmer, will make me catch up a bit, might make me less tired, will make me a better mum. She's not going to remember it anyway. But you know, you have to look after yourself. Your life isn't over because you have a baby. So yes, do your best in looking after them, but you have to weigh things up. They want you to be happy and they want you to be present with them as much as you can. And I really think those two things are huge. So I will look forward to your comments. Don't think I've got anything else to add, but that is my story. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon. Bye.